Hey Clayers, I'm Laurie Fagen. Thanks for joining us today. Are you ready to get wired? On a recent San Diego Polymer Clay Guild video chat, there were a lot of questions about wire issues. Everything from jump rings to crimp beads to the different tools that you use. So I thought I'd give just a brief 411 on some wire basics and show you a few techniques. Now, I don't consider myself to be the end-all be-all expert by any means, but I've read enough, watched enough experts do it, and done the techniques quite a few times myself. So hopefully this will help you when you're making mostly jewelry out of polymer clay or commercial beads. We'll talk about 4 different types of jump rings, show the difference between crimp beads and crimp tubes, demonstrate how to use a crimp cover. We'll talk about wire gauges, and we'll show you how to make a wrapped wire loop. So if you're ready, let's get wired. Here are a few basic wire tools that you may need. I have a pair of Beadalon flat nose pliers that I actually got from Lauren Anderson, the chainmail lady. And look what color they are. These are round nose pliers that are essential when you're doing wire. You'll need wire cutters. And then other nice things to have would be a crimp tool. This is a split ring opener. We'll demonstrate that in a minute. And this is a wire mandrel. We're going to start with jump rings, classic jewelry findings that help you connect one component with another. There are all sizes of jump rings, usually metal rings with an opening, that are used to make chains and jewelry. They can be from tiny to large. I'm not going to go into millimeter sizes, but the majority of them have traditionally been round. There's also the technique called chain mail, where mail is French for mesh, or where designs are made only from jump rings. And if you're really adventuresome, jump rings and chain mail can be made by wrapping wire around a mandrel like this. So you would wrap it around, make it into some coils, and then take your cutter and cut the hole to make a variety of jump rings. However, the price is so low on jump rings, I usually just purchase them myself. According to Polymer Clay Queen Donna Cato, she prefers oval jump rings, and I've been using them pretty exclusively since she told us this years ago. She believes that they are structurally more sound because the tension goes on the top and the bottom, not where the opening is on the side. I'm sure you've all had situations where the jump rings will open and your clasps or whatever can fall out. Donna also has a variety of colors of oval jump rings on her prairiecraft.com website. Now, whether you are using round or oval jump rings, there is a right way and a wrong way to open the jump rings. You can do it with your fingers, or you can use 2 flat nose pliers. Grasp the jump rings on either side of the opening, which is right here. You always rotate side to side like this, up and down, not opening this way. If you open that way, it damages the circular part of it. So you open them this way, open and close, and just open them just enough to be able to slide whatever component is that you need through the little hole. Now the same with the oval jump rings. You open them up by toggling back and forth, rotating back and forth like that. Now, to help ensure that your jump rings stay in that closed position, you can work harden the jump ring. After you get your components on, you close a jump ring by moving them side to side, just back and forth, and ideally you want the 2 little ends to click as you're going back and forth. Gently move it up and down 20 to 50 times, and that will help work harden the piece and keep them from opening up. Now there are also split rings that are more secure versions of jump rings because a split ring allows you to thread your component onto a ring that cannot be opened. Split rings are great for making keychains, zipper pulls, tag connectors, lobster claws or more, or if your pieces are heavy. Now there is a special tool for opening up split rings, and that's what this one is. You just insert it between the two pieces, and that opens it up and holds it open while you slide your other piece onto it. Then you lift it off and it closes. Now there are actually locking jump rings where this little piece can be pressed together and it actually locks in place. Frankly, I've never really got the hang of them, so I don't use them. Now, as you are finishing a piece of jewelry, usually, often when you're using stringing wire and findings, you'll need a crimp bead or a crimp tube to hold the wire in place around your findings. A crimp bead is a small, round, hollow piece of metal that can be flattened to secure the wire with either a pair of flat or chain nose pliers, or you can use a crimping tool. A crimp tube is just that, a tube that's usually a little bigger than a crimp bead. Typically, one does need this special crimping tool to secure a crimp tube. Now there are two stations to the crimp tool. The inside one is the one that puts the crimp in it, and the other one is the one that folds it onto itself. So let's say this is the end of your jewelry piece and you're going to put your lobster claw or clasp or whatever on the end here. Then you're going to string one crimp bead on it, and then you're going to run the wire through that crimp bead. Then you're going to pull it tight. And again, your lobster claw, whatever is up there. And once you've pulled it nice and tight, then you're going to take your flat nose and just literally flatten it by hand. And that will hopefully hold that in and hold your lobster claw on. You can also use the crimp tool on a crimp bead. You're going to go into the first station, squeeze and make the crimp, and then you turn it into the second station, and that makes it nice and rounded and also pretty secure. Now a crimp tube works pretty much the same way. You're going to thread it into the wire. You have a little more metal to make it even that much more secure. So again, you take the first station and squeeze, and then you turn it to the second station and squeeze again. Now you need to be careful though, because you can squeeze too much and you can break the piece. You can break the tube. So you do have to be careful not to go too much, or you just have to start again. But hopefully that will make it pretty secure and your findings won't fall off. Now you can use crimp covers to attractively hide those crimped beads or crimp tubes and some of the other messy ends on your finished strung jewelry. There is a clamshell bead cover that I've used, and it has a hole for the wire to go through, but to me it's kind of tricky to figure out where this loop goes and does it go this way or this way. So I use these simple crimp covers that are round, and they go right over the crimp tube with a crimp bead, and then you just squeeze gently around them, and it makes a very nice finish. You can use regular flat pliers, or you can use nylon covered pliers so you don't scratch the metal. Now we're going to talk briefly about wire and the different gauges or sizes. When talking about wire, whether it's craft wire and silver, copper, or gold tone, sterling, or fine silver wire, it's referred to in gauges. The higher the gauge, the thinner the wire. The lower the gauge, the thicker it is. So this is 9 gauge aluminum wire. It's very thick, very strong. This is 20 gauge, and then this is 28 gauge, which is very thin. And finally today we're going to show you how to make your own wrapped wire loop to add polymer or commercial beads to earrings and necklaces, to attach an earring finding specifically, but it can be used for other beading needs such as this one as well. There's a little wrapped wire loop on the ends of those. Now there are a lot of tutorials on the web on how to make wrapped wire loops. Just takes a little practice to get it nice and smooth. So we're using 20 gauge craft wire here and my round nose chain nose pliers. So you're going to go down about 1.5 inches on the wire, and with your fingers just bend it towards you into a 90-degree angle like that. You're going to reposition your tool so it's right in that 90 degrees. Now this time you're going to push it the opposite way all the way around so they come together like that. Then you're going to reposition again and put the bottom tool and hold it tight, and then either with your fingers or with pliers you're going to wrap it around. 1, 2, usually 2 times is plenty. Sometimes, depending how long you want it to dangle, you can do it 3 times. Then from there, take your cutters, snip off the end, and you can either take your pliers and just make sure you tuck in that little edge and make sure it's not rough, or I've often taken the crimp tool on the rounded portion just to bend that little part in. It makes it nice and smooth. And there you have a wrapped wire loop. We'll show that again. Again, with your 20 gauge wire, go down about 1.5 inches, pull it towards you to get a 90-degree bend. Reposition your pliers in that 90 degrees, and now you're going to twist it away from you so you get that. Reposition your pliers again in that bottom, and then you're going to pull the wire around to make the loop. Now I do like to use my flat nose here because I feel like I can get a really tight wrap and a really tight loop on that. Then you snip off the ends and tuck the piece in, or use your crimp tool. Then you have a nice wire loop. Then from there, you can open up your jewelry findings and slip it onto that, and you've got your earring. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at laurie@fagendesigns.com and check out my polymer clay jewelry on my website at fagendesigns.com and make it a creative day.